Welcome, guys. Today we are talking Ferrari, and have we found their weakness? Was it hidden in plain sight? You see the flash of red at the front on a Friday, on a Saturday, and you think the Ferrari has the winning car. You see the raw pace over one lap, the aggressive driver lineup of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, and you assume that it's just a matter of execution for the victory. But what if I told you that their greatest strength in qualifying might just be the very thing that exposes their biggest weakness on Sunday? What if the data suggests that the faster Ferrari tries to go, the more vulnerable it becomes? We've analysed the patterns, and they seem to get to a point to hide and they just point to a hidden fragility that could be costing them wins when the pressure is really on. And one theory is that it all comes down to a single factor: the car's inability to cope when things get difficult. Let's be clear, the 2026 Ferrari is a genuinely competitive machine. This isn't a story about a slow car. The team is a top contender for a reason. They secured a crucial victory in the first half of the season with a magnificent maiden win for Lewis Hamilton at Barcelona. Charles Leclerc followed that up with a brilliant win in Silverstone. Both Lewis and Charles have taken the fight to their rivals. They've scored multiple podiums this season and proven that on its day, this car is more than capable of winning. Team principal Fred the Red, he's acknowledged that the team's progressed, but they have a solid platform for the season. They know that they've got a solid platform for the season. And after Lewis's victory in Spain, Fred said, and he praised the team's direction, highlighting that their pace was strong right from the start of the weekend. The on-paper results tell a story of a team on the rise, a genuine challenger, but a closer look at the data might reveal some cracks beneath the surface. A reoccurring problem that can turn promising weekends into a story of what could have been. And, well, the real story of this car might not be found in its peak performance, but in its performance drop-off. The theory we're exploring is that it's the core issues isn't a lack of pace, but a problem of sensitivity. Analysis from a multiple race weekend suggests the car operates with a remarkable narrow window. When conditions are perfect, it's a world beater. When the track gets hot, the tyres are stressed, or when strategy demands flexibility, the performance doesn't just dip, it falls off a cliff. And this could be Ferrari's data-driven downfall, a potential fragility that turns small challenges into a major deficit when it comes to the crucial points day. The most obvious symptoms of this theoretical fragility is the tyre management, specifically the overheating of the rear tyres. Throughout this season, a pattern has arguably emerged where the car struggles to keep its tyres in the optimal tyre temperature over a long race stint, especially in high temperatures. The textbook example of this was the Austrian Grand Prix. Ferrari looked competitive over the weekend, but during the race, the picture just can change dramatically following a tough race in Hungary as well. Fred, the Red, has said just an honest assessment, saying that the team just made too many mistakes. One interpretations of races like these is that when the team has to over push in the early stages to keep pace, they risk destroying the tyres. This initial overexertion can enforce the team to react, and an inefficient strategy, effectively taking them out of contention. This wouldn't be the case if the car. It's not just a case of the car being slow. It's a question of whether the car can sustain a hard pace without paying a huge price in the tyre life. If chasing a rival pushes the car out of its delicate operating window, the consequences generally we've seen are severe. The analysis suggests that once the rear tyre enters an overheating phase, the car loses stability and the degradation accelerates rapidly. It just makes it impossible to maintain the competitive pace that we've seen throughout races where they've done well. Digging deeper, data hints that the problem might be more specific and not just about the overall tyre wear. It's about how the car performs on different tyre compounds. Multiple analysis on the car suggests that it's strong on softer rubber, and that could be significantly weaker on the harder compounds in race trim. The Hungarian Grand Prix was a challenging weekend for the team, but before the race, many considered, me included, that Ferrari would be a top contender for victory. It was, well, a race that told a very different story. Analysis after the event highlighted a stark contrast. The car seemed competitive on the softer tyre compound. It appeared to fall away on the harder compound. In the extreme heat of Hungary, both Charles and Lewis struggled to match the pace of the rivals. Once they were forced to use a harder tyre compound for a significant part of the race, and that seemed to be telling. They just lost pace to everybody around them. It might be a compound-specific weakness. If it is, that's critical, and it might explain why the car can look utterly dominant in one session, like we see with the softer tyres in qualifying, and then strangely average when it comes to race day. In the Ferraris, the races that Ferrari have won this year, Barcelona, it featured a strategy where the reliance on the most problematic hard tyre was limited. In the races like Austria and Hungary, where the hard tyre were probably the key component to the optimal strategy, Ferrari, their weakness was potentially exposed there, and it seems they just couldn't simply avoid the tyre without making a massive strategic sacrifice. This probably brings us on to the core of our theory, the tyre deg and the compound specific issues and struggles. They might not be separate issues. They could be symptoms of a single underlying weakness, and that's Ferrari's fundamental fragility. The car appears to have a narrow window to operate in. When it's inside that window, cool track, favourite tyre compound, clean air, it's a race-winning machine. We saw this in Spain. Lewis mastered and managed his strategy to victory in the heat, though. But interestingly, it wasn't the need for the hard tyre compound in that race. But the moment the car is pushed outside of the window, it seems to become a little brittle. The patterns from the race in Austria and Hungary suggest that trying to match the front runner's pace can cause the tyres to give up, or that they're being forced onto a less favourable tyre compound in the high heat, and that just gets rid and erases their competitive advantage. This isn't just power deficit. Fred's mentioned that they know they need to improve on the engine side. And it isn't purely an aerodynamic flaw either. It just seems a fundamental characteristics of the car's design that it just might lack the robustness to handle imperfect conditions. We've got rival teams might lose a tenth or two where the tyres starts to fade, but the Ferrari's performance at times to appear to drop off far more drastically than their rivals, and this fragility could be and could make them vulnerable in any race that requires them to be adaptable, where it's due to change of or whether it's due to change of tyre temperature, high deg, or the strategy chaos of a safety car. So what does this mean for Ferrari's championship ambitions, you might ask? Well, it means that while they are a contender, it might be a conditional one. Their ability to win could depend heavily on circuit characteristics, the weather, and the tyre allocation. I'm probably more looking at tyre allocation and the weather more than circuit characteristics. They've done well in circuits where, for example, Silverstone, they weren't expected to be competitive, but they were. And this just makes it difficult for them to mount a season-long challenge against probably more versatile rivals in the championship. A championship isn't just won on the good days, it's won by managing your bad days. And right now, Ferrari's bad days seem to just be a little too costly. The season's far from over, so rest assured, Ferrari fans, and I'm almost telling this to myself, I think Ferrari are well aware of these limitations. The team have been praised for its consistent, aggressive development program this year. They've consistently bought upgrades aimed at tackling probably this very issue, and just include updates to improve the thermal management of the tyres. Fred Vasseur has said basically openly that they know they need to improve on the engine side, and they're planning on further power unit developments. The critical question really for them in the second half of the season isn't just whether they can add more downforce or horsepower. It's whether they can widen the operating window, which car makes this car just a little bit more resilient, and can they build a car that's not only fast but tough as well. And that's what the bottom line is, really. The data seems to reveal a fascinating paradox. Ferrari has built probably one of its most competitive cars in years, yet its biggest enemy in 2026, it might not be another team, but it's the car's very own delicate nature. The flash of speed that we see in qualifying is real, but it could mask a fragility, really, that's exposed by the relentless pressure of a Grand Prix. The win in Barcelona proves that the potential's there, but the struggles elsewhere show just how difficult it might be to unlock the consistency. The path forward kind of seems clear to Ferrari, really. It has to find a way to make their car fight back when the conditions turn against it. What do you think? What is the key problem for Ferrari to solve in the second half of the season? Is it purely an engineering fix on the car, or is it a strategic mindset change on the pit wall to better protect their car from its own weakness? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. As always, see you on the next one.